We will learn the inputs, tools and techniques, and outputs of the control procurements process. Control procurements is the process of ensuring that both the buyer and seller meet the terms and conditions documented in the agreement between them. This process overlaps many other executing, monitoring, and controlling processes, such as direct and manage project work, perform integrated change control, and the control quality and control risks processes. In this process, both the buyer and seller are responsible for upholding the terms and conditions of the agreement, and each must hold each other accountable. The process will be performed from the moment the agreement is signed until all terms and conditions have been fulfilled and the agreement can be closed. This includes the buyer obligation to pay the seller for the product or service. While the timing of this may vary based on the agreement, payment from buyer to seller is always considered to be part of the control procurements process. The PMBOK guide defines 6 inputs to the control procurements process. The project management plan will include the procurement management plan, among others, which will define how this process will be performed. Since this process must be well integrated with other project management processes, its other components, such as the change control plan and quality management plan, will also be important. Agreements and procurement documentation represent the overall statement of work of the seller as well as the legal contract that specifies the terms and conditions each party has agreed to and will need to be controlled in this process. This may include seller obligations, such as providing status, timely and cost-effective delivery, and meeting requirements. This may also specify buyer commitments, such as making selections and providing payments. As change requests to the project scope, schedule, or budget are approved, they must be evaluated from a procurement context to evaluate if they will affect any agreements currently in place with sellers. The final input to the control procurements process is work performance data, which may include the actual technical performance achieved by project work and is also an output of the direct and manage project work process. This may include the status of deliverable inspections or payments made. The control procurements process includes many tools and techniques to help ensure that the buyer and seller are properly managing the terms and conditions of the agreements. In some instances, the buyer or seller may need to change the terms and conditions of an agreement. This may be due to a change in the project or seller performance. Since each agreement will have unique rules for how it may be modified, the parties must utilize the contract change control system. This is different from the project change control system, which governs project baselines. When buyer and seller feel that the agreement has not been properly followed by the other party and disputes arise, claims administration is a technique to resolve such disputes or conflicts between the buyer and seller. This process should be defined in the contract, potentially including negotiation or arbitration. If a settlement cannot be reached, litigation may be necessary. Procurement performance reviews, earned value analysis, and trend analysis are evaluations of the seller's progress to meet schedule, budget, scope, and quality. Procurement performance reviews may be buyer-led, while earned value and trend analysis may be seller-led. In both cases, the buyer will be evaluating the seller with respect to compliance with the agreements and the influence it will have on their own project performance. The buyer will also perform inspections on the seller's delivery of products or services. In order to ensure buyer requirements are met, agreements should have measurable criteria to evaluate conformance. Audits are a structured review of the procurement process. If discrepancies from the agreements are identified, they should be brought to the attention of the buyer and seller's project managers. There are 3 key outputs for the control procurements process. Closed procurements represents the buyer's formal written acceptance of the product or service delivered by the seller. The project management team should accept all deliverables before closure. Work performance information represents the status of the project as compared to the plan. This may include information regarding how sellers are performing relative to their agreements and project plans for schedule and budget. As the agreements themselves change or the seller's performance changes, the project baselines will need to be updated to reflect those changes. To help ensure changes are properly integrated and all baselines are updated, it is important to follow change control procedures by generating change requests. Like all change requests, these will become an input to the Perform integrated change control process. The control procurements process may also create additional project documentation and updates. This may include updating the procurement management plan, the stakeholder register, or the agreements. Control procurements is the process of assuring that both the buyer and the seller meets the terms and conditions documented in the agreement between them. This process overlaps many other executing, monitoring, and controlling processes such as direct and manage project work, perform integrated change control, and the control quality and control risks processes. In this process, both the buyer and seller are responsible for upholding the terms and conditions of the agreement, and each must hold each other accountable. The process will be performed from the moment the agreement is signed until all terms and conditions have been fulfilled and the agreement can be closed.